Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast this week. As you all know, I have been making the transition from just doing podcasting and putting it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, those things, and I am now putting them onto YouTube because I'm realizing that a lot of people are more visual based, and having a face and having a human to kind of see and talk to kind of in your brain and interact with while you're listening to this can be really, really helpful. A lot of today is going to be sharing what my understanding from more like a psychology route, which I'm always doing with you, right, is talking about the psychological and then also braiding in the spiritual piece, because I don't really think they're separate. I think there's so many beautiful overlaps, and especially where we are going in the future, there's more and more openness to considering ourselves more than just a body. Right? More than just this vessel that walks around and create things, that we actually have this innate soul essence energy inside of it with ideas and creativity and this ability to pour sort of this inner light and really embody it through this body and to really put it out into the world, which I see as medicine in a huge way. So I think in terms of where starting with today is dropping into considering what doubt has looked like for you. Where in your life, or do you have themes where you doubt yourself with certain subjects or certain people? As people are really, really good mirror. I always have to congratulate people throughout the day, because if I find myself getting judgmental or fearing doubt or not fully feeling confident in myself around another person, I'm like, oh wow, thank you. Like, this is a teacher, this is a mirror. There's something happening in their space that's impacting me, and everyone around you is actually a mirror. Everyone you see, the way that you're reacting, a lot of times we push away people in life that have character traits that we're pushing away in ourselves. And that can be a lot of programming. I talk about that a lot. I say programming or patterns or, sort of family history. There's a way that our families value certain things when we're growing up, even when we're tiny, tiny beings. If we hear parents talk about someone or get upset at someone for doing something, we note that on a survival level. And we say, oh, I need to avoid this in order to get my needs met. I need to make sure that mom, dad, caregiver, sibling, whoever is happy with me and that I'm able to get what I need, so I'm going to avoid this. So we get shaped really, really early on. And so people around us that we technically push away or that we have a lot of resistance towards, I'll use that word, oftentimes have traits that we are really, really not willing to have in ourselves. So really, really looking at when you're doubting yourself around a certain situation, whether it's, like I said, a person or a task or something that you're moving towards. Doubt, I see, is one of the biggest killers to intuition. There's a few of them, and doubt, resistance, not being in neutrality. I've mentioned some of these before, but for me personally, I'm going to really, really own that. Doubt has been massively huge and really turning down my intuition and really not letting me move into joy, into this radiance of being. One of the ways or reasons I can be vulnerable with you and speak from a place of knowing, but also speak from a place of like, I'm going to give you this information. I'm going to give you this really personal story for me about where I've learned this and how, because it's also sending out a sense of love and hope, because a lot of us experience the same things. A lot of us go through the same cycles. Sometimes the people around us, the situation can be different, but the emotions and the core theme of it is the same. And so I share not only information with you, but I share vulnerability. And it's a sense of me healing me by opening up on these things, but it's also a sense of connecting out with you and saying, hey, we all have to heal together. And by sharing our stories, by sharing what we've been through, we get to see other people more deeply. We get to understand where they've come from. And all of a sudden, people become more human. I really don't love, like I've mentioned before, and like I said before, this spiritual kind of hierarchy that seems to be coming out. Especially with social media, there's like this glamorousness sometimes to spirituality, or this like bougie, like on a throne thing. And like, I'm here to be like, hey, super cool. Like, love all this stuff. And it doesn't really require a sense of spiritual materialism or a sense of putting other people on a pedestal. I want you to put your spirit on a pedestal. words today. I want you to put your spirit on a pedestal, to be able to spin it around in this beautiful sunlight, in the moonlight, and say, wow, look at this energy inside of me. How do I connect closer to it so that I never have to feel alone again? So that I never have to know that I don't got myself, that I don't have this ability to hold myself in love, in care, in trust. So this is my story. When I finished my graduate school program for going to school to be a licensed counselor / psychotherapist, I experienced something that was incredibly difficult. And it was one of those things I didn't really have the information or know how to understand. The day before I was supposed to present my master's thesis paper, right? We had like a kind of a big presentation we were supposed to do the next day. The night before, we were all planning to get together and kind of set up the room, because Naropa has more of a holistic look at presenting information. And so it was this sweet sort of community room. We were all in groups and would present and kind of honor each other and our thesis and things like that. And I ended up showing up that night to kind of help prepare the room, kind of really ground the space. And somehow on my drive there, I ended up having this massive, massive stomach ache. And essentially, digestion, stomach issues my whole life have been this really confusing loop. I've been to, so many doctors, taking x-rays, basically wondering, why can't my body digest most things? Why does it have trouble digesting this or that? Or why is it inflamed? All of this kind of stuff. So I grew up with always having stomach aches. I thought when you ate food, it was supposed to hurt. I just automatically thought when you ate food, your body hurt, and then eventually would go away, and sometimes it would hurt extra. And then you would have to take all these medicines, or you would have to go to the nurse's office, or, whatever that was as a kid growing up. And so, of course, I'm driving to this kind of get together, and I start getting a big stomach ache, and I hadn't eaten anything. And I was like, I wonder what's happening. And I think was not really used to anyone checking in on having stomach pain. I'd mention it, people would be like, oh, are you okay? But no one would really dig into it with me. No one really asked questions outside of going to a doctor's office. And so I finally got there, and I was kind of keeled over. And one of the teachers was like, what symptoms are you having? And I just listed them off, and she said, that sounds like that's your appendix. And I was like, there's no way this is my appendix. There's absolutely no way. This feels just like a more hardcore stomach ache. And she said, I really, really think there's 2 blocks away, there's an urgent care. I really think you should go in and get that checked out. And I said, okay, fine. I'll go to this urgent care. And so I walk 2 blocks over, and I go to this urgent care, and I explain the symptoms I'm having, and they go, oh yeah, no, we don't have anything to get you checked out to make sure that that's not anything having to do with your appendix. But what you should do is drive over to this other sort of urgent care. They have the technology. And I said, okay. And I got in my car. And by this time I was like, wow, it's getting hard to drive. This is getting really, really intense. And I get to this urgent care, and it's only 15 minutes away. And by the time I get to the urgent care, it's pouring rain. And I walk into this urgent care, kind of just keeled over a little bit. And in the waiting room, there's a huge line of people. I'm waiting there. I'm having trouble kind of holding my head up, because I'm just kind of trying to crawl into a ball inside myself, essentially. And I get up to the front, and I look at her and say, I think these are the symptoms I'm having. I went to another urgent care, and they essentially said, you guys could check this out. And she says, oh no, we don't have any of that. That sounds like you need to go to the emergency room. And I almost collapsed. I almost collapsed standing at the desk. I just started crying. And she was like, do we need to call an ambulance? And I was like, no, I will drive myself. Thank you. And I just I don't remember walking out. I think I was out of my body by that time. I think I was in so much pain. I didn't really know what was happening. And I got in my car, and I was shaking. And there's never a moment in my life where I can remember not being able to take care of myself. I don't remember when everything bad has fallen down in my life, it's been this sort of like chip on my shoulder moment. It's created a story that I have to do everything myself, unfortunately, which I'm definitely unweaving through my life, but it created this sense of I can make it through. I have the heart fire, I have the ability, and I couldn't. I was sitting in my car just full of doubt, and I froze. I didn't know what to do. And I ended up calling my partner at the time and saying, like, I can't drive myself to the emergency room and I need to. And luckily he came and picked me up, and they rushed me in for an emergency appendectomy. And in the morning, I was supposed to give my presentation at 10 a.m. and I woke up at 8:30, connected to all the, the beeping machines and all of that. And I tried to stand up and I was like, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to go do my presentation. And my partner was like, are you freaking nuts? Like, you just had an appendectomy. Like, you can barely stand. Like, I really don't think this is a good idea. And I was like, no, I'm going to do it. And luckily, like, he talked me out of it. But there was so much in my space of wanting to push through, of wanting to get through. And ironically, I had this book of medical conditions, like what they sound like or what they connect to on a spiritual level, by this woman named Louise Hay. She wrote this kind of diagnostic book back in the 80s that someone had given to me. And I don't use it to diagnose myself, but I like to look it up. If I have like a certain physical ailment, I'm like, what does someone say this is in terms of a spiritual thing going on? And I looked it up, and it was all about fear and doubt. And ironically, I was able to give my presentation later, had my appendectomy, everything worked out. But a couple weeks after I graduated, I had a bunch of job interviews. I was looking for jobs, and I took out the garbage, was trying to move it out, and I bent over in a weird way, and I somehow threw out my back, and I could barely walk. Of course, I looked up that, like, kind of stuff, and it was like caring too much, fear of the future. And I was like, oh my gosh. And after that point, something happened in me, something snapped, and I spiraled into this massive hole of doubt. Massive. I didn't get this job interview that I thought was absolutely perfect. I went in for the first two, somehow managed to get through it pretty well. And the third one, I knew I blew it. I knew I wasn't the right person. I knew that what I was saying wasn't meeting them even as I was talking to them. And I just pooled into this huge place of doubt, of doubting myself, of doubting what I was doing. And it lasted so long. It was months and months and months. And it was one of those times where I was in so much space of doubt. I felt so undernourished in myself that I was sleeping 12 hours a day. I would go to bed at 9 o'clock, right? And wake up 10 a.m. the next day. There was so much sleep. There was so much doubt coming through. And it was because when I graduated, when I was moving into the field, right, from graduate school to actually doing the clinical work, because once you graduate from a psychology-based program, and if you're on the track to becoming a licensed therapist, once you graduate, you have to do 2,000 hours post-graduation of clinical work to even be able to say, hey, I'd like to apply for the licensure, and then you have to apply for it. So it's a minimum of 2 years afterwards. So even after you graduate, you have 2 more years of just getting the hours in to say that you can actually be considered to be a licensed counselor. So it's quite a long trek ahead when you're going to become a licensed counselor. In this case, the graduate program is 3 years versus 2. So it ends up being 5 minimum versus 4. But there was so much doubt in my space, and I had never experienced this level of doubt. Nothing seemed to be going right, and I could not trust myself, and I could not find joy. I woke up and I was like, I'm so disconnected from myself. I don't know what's going on. I would try to connect in with my guides, and the information that I got over and over and over again was, you are healing something huge. I kept getting the message that said, if it's coming up, it's coming out. You are detoxing this out of your space, and your body is responding to energy that is not in alignment with who you are anymore, right? This appendectomy, this like really intense body experience connected with this overriding fear in my system that I wasn't really even aware of. And I'm, like I've said in several YouTube podcasts, I guess not YouTube since this is my first one going on YouTube, but in several podcast episodes, I'm a person where if something's not working out, my go-to is like, let's speed it up. Like, let's go faster. Like, let's take on more, which like never really works. I'm not really sure. Sometimes I go back in my history and kind of pinpoint where that came from. But my desire to try to go faster and to move through this did not work. I'd make a to-do list, I'd get stuff done, I'd wake up 12 hours later, be in the same doubt spiral. And I can't tell you sometimes how many people, when I go to these huge reading events and I'll end up reading for 40 or 50 people during a weekend, how many people are going through doubt spirals. And doubt spirals are a massive, massive opportunity to release energy that's not yours. It means there's something coming through in the system that is not working for you anymore. There is some kind of energy or frequency that's challenging you, and it's an opportunity to look inside and to be with that feeling. And this is a lot of what meditation and mindfulness teaches us, right? Is instead of moving faster, like some people like me do to try to bypass it or really, really get hooked in it and make it our identity, right? This like scarlet letter, like really, really sitting on it. It's looking inward with it and actually being able to say, wow, this is an energy that's moving through me. This is a core wound. This is an energy that's stuck in there that's moving through. How do I be with it and also know that it's not me? I think a lot of people get really, really hooked into identity because ego really wants to understand and really hold certain things close to us. If you're going through a lot of doubt, it might not actually be your doubt. And I say that in a way that what you're experiencing, it doesn't mean that what you're experiencing isn't real, but the doubt that's coming in this moment right now, there is nothing you can doubt yourself about. Like right in the present moment, if we were to go off of right now, if we were not to look at the past, if we were not to look at what's happened before, everything right now, these beautiful moments, everything's fine. But doubt is based off of past and prior experiences, other energies where things haven't gone through. So if I'm doubting myself, so if we take myself, for example, there was something doubting me on being able to be enough. I was like, oh my gosh, do I have what I need to go into this field to help people? Because there's immense pressure, especially as a psychotherapist, to really understand and really feel what people are going through and really help direct them so that they can heal themselves. There can be a lot of pressure to have the answer. And right, once you're graduating, you've done, clinical work and you've done school, but you haven't gone out in the real world. You haven't actually worked with people, had your own private practice, worked in agencies full time, essentially. So there is so much doubt around like, do I have the information I need? Because people are coming to me and saying like, I don't know what to do, help me. And you're like, oh my gosh, I have to have the answer. And unfortunately, I put all that pressure on myself to know and to have the answer. And so all of this doubt came up connected to old things, old energy in me that reminded me of, do I have what I need? Am I enough? Childhood stuff. I would sit there and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm a child. I feel like I'm not actually my full-grown adult. And it's because I was literally detoxing old energy, old doubt that was coming up. And so many people feel like they're doing something wrong when a hard energy is coming up in their space. Those are the opportunities where the body's like, hey, I'm pulling this out of the subconscious. I'm pulling this out of this deep kind of area inside of you. I want you to look at this. Like, I want to do some healing work with you. Can we release this? Can we give this love? Can we kind of unwind this a little bit? Your body gives you energy. It gives you messages about what it needs healing about. And so if a big energy is coming up, that means you're actually doing it right. If it's not coming up and you can't feel it, that means there might be a defensive part of you that doesn't feel like you're quite ready to look at it. But it's a very courageous thing if you've got an energy coming up. It means that the body's like, hey, we might be finally ready to look at this. We might be finally ready to release this. And then the next step is how? Right? How do we actually see it? And I always tell people you have to depersonalize, right? You have to depersonalize to a certain level because it is about you. And at the same time, it's not. You didn't just come up with doubt as a child. You didn't just say, oh, doubt, I'm going to doubt myself here. There were different interactions that you had with different people, different experiences that hold that level of doubt. Most of the time, doubt and not feeling enough comes from someone else's story that didn't validate us in some way. And so when we have doubt, coming up, it is one of the biggest blockers to intuition, which intuition is a level of trusting what we're sensing or seeing. And if we have a hard time trusting ourselves and we go into doubt, it literally feels like we just put a sheet over our head. Literally feels like we just completely blocked our ability to see things beyond. And then we feel super, super claustrophobic. We feel super, super in the dark. And most of the time, if we don't feel connected to other people, it's because we don't feel connected to ourselves. Essentially, a lot of times when we feel doubt, we try to take responsibility for it. We try to say, what's wrong with me? Why am I not powering through this? Right? And on an energy level, that's the third chakra. That's this power center inside of us that is getting really, really small, feeling really, really small, and saying, I'm doubting myself. I'm doubting my ability to exist, to offer, to have purpose, to feel good about myself, to actually have access to joy. And so joy and doubt, like I said, can be a very, very similar side of the coin. They can be incredibly close to each other. If you're feeling so much doubt, oftentimes joy is waiting on the other side. And the way to actually shift doubt to joy is to actually know who you are. And that is the way that I've found that I was actually able to shift out of it. I had to, number one, take a step back from the doubt and say, where is this coming from? So when you take a step back and you actually say, is there anything in this moment where I should be doubting myself right now? Usually it actually has nothing to do, like I said, with the moment. So we say, okay, I'm experiencing doubt. Not I am doubt, because that's what ego does. I'm doubt. I'm feeling doubt. I'm experiencing doubt in my space. Where might this doubt be coming from? Why is it kicking up in my system? Am I seeing a mirror to a fear or something in my space? And it feels really claustrophobic. But it's not all of me. Not all of me is just doubt. Not all of me is just fear. I'm experiencing that energy in my system. And there's something coming up in me that is really brilliant and really courageous and wants to heal this. That's why it's coming to the surface. I like to use the example of detoxing a lot. Whenever you go on a cleanse or a fast, most people feel awful for a lot of it, because by actually opening up and giving space to what's there are things that are difficult that are coming to the surface. Like when you do a cleanse, it's not just chemicals or certain, candida or other things in the body that are not good for it, certain bacteria, certain cells, certain things like that. It's actually pulling things that are stuck out that start coming to the surface because we're not filling it with other things. We're not feeding it anymore. And so sometimes it gets bigger and bigger and bigger over time. So I think, it was a couple years ago, a woman came and sat down for a reading, and she was also someone that was in more of a medical field, helping profession. And she was doing really good. And she was like, why am I doubting myself so much? Why am I doubting what's happening in me? And so we really dove in, and what she was doing was this courageous work where she was saying, I'm actually moving to a higher frequency. I'm actually learning and manifesting and wanting to trust myself. And so all the doubt starts flooding out. And it clicked in me when she was telling the story, because I realized when I was graduating and when I was really planning on, really jumping into the field, not only was I experiencing doubt because I wasn't sure that I felt enough, but I was also praying to really trust myself. I was really in a space where I was saying, I really want to trust myself with this. I really want to honor other people. I actually want to be someone that partners with other people and says, oh my gosh, you deserve to really be in your highest self. And I know some healing that can really help with that. And here's what we can do. And so I think something really, really huge that we noticed in her, I was able to get a healing in myself, because I was like, oh my gosh, I watched you and I see where this energy is detoxing, how it's coming up. If it's coming up, it's coming out. And it was a new understanding for me to see that most of the time, if we're manifesting something really big in ourselves, if we're saying, I really want this, everything that's not in alignment with that frequency will start coming out, because the body goes, oh, yeah, you don't trust yourself, but you want to? Oh my gosh. There's all these times in 3rd grade or in 5th grade or 7th grade, or when you were 21 or 25 or 30, or when you ended this marriage, when you had kids, there was all these places that you doubted yourself. But it was really, really hard to look at those things then. But you kind of constricted around it, made a story a little bit about it, and that's still stored in the body. So the body's like, hey, this is a great opportunity to let this energy come up, to not really hold on with this kind of energy cyst in the body. We're going to really allow it to come up. How cool. You want this energy. Let's get rid of this other energy that gets in the way. And then we go, oh my gosh, I'm doing it wrong. I cannot tell you, it hurts my heart when people manifest really big things or they want to go in certain directions, and then all of a sudden the body seems to go in all different directions and they feel like they completely did it wrong. They're like, oh my gosh, I wanted this beautiful thing and now look what's happening to me. Like, I'm doing it wrong. I'm doubting myself. When people are trying to manifest, it's so easy to go into a space of, oh, I did it wrong, or I should have done it differently. And perhaps you're actually doing it perfectly. Perhaps you're actually doing exactly right. You're just getting rid of the energy and making more space for it. And that's where joy comes in, right? This is kind of like the cherry on top. Joy is the ability to go, oh my gosh, even though I'm going through a hard thing, I'm doing it right. Can I tap into this core energy inside myself that actually allows me to feel my creative potential, my radiance of being? It's almost like a sun inside of us. Joy is something that is always accessible. And even though we're going through sad things, or we're going through hard things, or someone, hurts us, or someone really ignores us, or someone, is manipulative out of their own sense or lack of being enough, it's like, oh my gosh, this is a teaching moment for me to step in and be more in my spiritual certainty. It's a moment for me to step into myself and say, hey, like, I've got you. It's going to be okay. Even though these hard things are happening, like, I've got you. And there's a sense of joy in that. There's a sense of pure knowing that there's this energy inside of you that you can always tap into, that you can always trust. I like to think of my soul essence energy as like my highest self. It is like my best friend. It is the person, the energy, the intuition, the guide inside of me that knows that it actually might be okay. Even if there's doubt coming up, me being mean to myself around it doesn't actually help. Me spiraling into it and focusing and really making my whole vision it without seeing anything else doesn't actually help. And that's that moment where we step back from a feeling, right? Like if we're in the river and we feel like we're drowning and we're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to work with this. What do they teach you, right? In any sort of usually swimming lesson, if you don't feel like you can swim, thrashing around just wastes your energy. They usually tell you to become calm. In almost every single, if you fall through ice, and you start splashing around, the first thing they do is they say you want to sit in the cold for a few seconds, breathe, let your body get used to it, and then you allow yourself to gently float up. You don't thrash around because you end up wasting a lot of your energy. And it's the same thing if you're experiencing doubt. There's a level of surrender, but it's not surrender as in I'm surrendering this really hard energy and making it about me being wrong or bad. It's like I'm surrendering to this energy that's coming through that's really difficult. I'm going to have to extra be nice to myself. I'm going to extra have to be in love and kindness with myself. And how do I find joy? How do I really trust what's coming? How do I really trust that I'm going to be okay and I'm going to get through this? And so you don't want to make it any harder. And oftentimes, right after a detox, right after letting go, we make all of this space for newness. And that's actually where joy can come in. Joy is a panoramic awareness energy of being. Joy doesn't have to be conditional. Joy doesn't have to be based off of doing well. It is knowing and connecting in with your core essence. And while I'm talking about this, if you're having a hard time, you're like, what is essence? What is soul? Like, this is a brand new thing for me. I don't really get what you're saying. Really, really check out my first episodes 1 through 5. They're a little bit less conversational and they're more instructive and direct around how do you tap into self-love and core essence energy. And the first one, it goes through different things, but the first one explains it and talks about self-love. And the fifth one, I think throughout most of them, actually, there's guided meditations to connect in with some of these core pieces. But the last one actually guides you through how to connect in with your special soul essence energy and that different color and how to bring it in and how to really see that as medicine. So if I'm talking about this, I'm not going to go into kind of the pieces of that. But if you're curious about it, definitely check out some of these older kind of videos, podcasts, things like that to really help you see and experience that in a bigger way so it doesn't feel like everything I'm talking about is theoretical. You get your own first-person experience of it. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast today. And also, if you're watching the YouTube version of it right now, definitely check out my website at soulessencewellnesscenter.com. As you can hear on the intro to the podcast, I am a licensed counselor, psychotherapist, a soul essence wellness coach, and also a psychic medium. So I do a lot of one-on-one work with people on a psychotherapy basis. I also do a lot of psychic coaching with people and also have energy medicine programs where I teach you how to really tap into your core essence energy, how to move out doubt, how to move a lot of these blockages out so that you can really align in yourself. And then I have other programs that go beyond those kind of medicine energies to really tap into your intuition and to really enhance your psychic skills. So if you're curious about those things, like I said, check out my website. Other than that, thank you so much for being here, being with me, and as always, sending you so much love.